Okay, here we go on the third video to do with multiplayer. What we need to do in this video is get a health bar to show the health as it goes down when the bullet hits us. So first thing we need to do is to create a new canvas. So go to Game Object, User Interface, and Canvas. We don't want to use the same one as our IP address was showing. It needs to be one just for our health because it's going to follow us around. So I call it Health Canvas. And on the Health Canvas, we need to create an image. And this image is going to be our actual bar. And we're going to call this background. Now the background image is going to be the red part. Okay, we'll change the width and the height because big square like that's not useful. Instead, just a little bit will be a lot better. I'm going to set these all to 0. Okay, so 0, 0, 0, 100, and 10. And that is all we need to do in the transform part. The next bit, we need to do a source image. Now, this is actually an input field, so for typing into the input field background, but it's nice and curved. It'll work really well for a health bar. Choose that. Color. Well, when we've got low health, we want to show the background, so we want it to be red. Now our foreground, our green one, is going to be quite similar to this. So actually we can just right click and duplicate our background. Call it foreground. Let's make it a child of the background because we want it to follow it around wherever it goes. And instead of being red, we want it to be green. So you can already see it looks like we've got a full health bar. So health canvas with the background being a child of it, foreground being a child of the background. Now the other things we need to change on the foreground is we need to anchor it in the correct place. So we're going to go to anchor here and go for left middle. So that will just keep it in the same place on the red one. It's just going to help when the bar goes down, all sorts of things like that. So that is our health canvas. We need to get the player into the scene now, so we're going to drag him on. And this health canvas needs to be a child of the player, so I'm going to drag it onto the player. Now it will follow around wherever it goes. That's the idea, so it will follow around our player. But we do need to make it go to world space. Okay. Once it's on world space, we can actually change these transform details. You realize when it was on overlay, you can't change these things. It just fills the whole screen. When it's on world space, we can. And we just want it to be 0, 1.5, and 0. So it's on there, but actually that is way too big. We need to change the scale. So change the scale to 0.01 for all three of them. And you'll see that actually it's a nice little bar over the top of him or her. So that is our size and scale of the bar. It'll follow it around, it'll follow the player around, it'll be seen in the camera no matter what. So how do we actually change this? We put it in, but how do we change it? Well, we've got a health script, and this health script should really be on the player. So let's go back to the player up here. And what we want to do is add a component, scripts, and health. So now we've got our health on our player, so it will affect. But it needs to know what it needs to change because the script, this bit down here, all this bit is about losing health, and if it's got 0 health, it will say dead at the bottom of here. But this bit here, the size delta and size delta y, it's going to change how big the green bar is depending on our current health. And it's a vector 2 because it's not a 3D shape, it's a 2D shape. So what we need to do therefore is that rectangle transform that it's asking for, needs to be on the player up here, needs to be our foreground. It needs to be the green one because that's what gets bigger and smaller. So we just drag it onto there, from there onto there. And what we're going to do is now we're going to update our prefab. Now, I know I've shown you a few times deleting this here and then dragging this one on. But actually, if you drag the player bit onto player there, it actually updates the prefab itself, so you don't lose any of the connections. Some of you may have found your network manager was playing up when you were doing that. So that's in there. Now I can delete this from here. So we've got our player with all its settings in. Last thing we need to do, our health canvas, we need to make sure it's always looking at the camera properly. So we're going to add a component, as a new one, called scripts and billboard. Now the billboard script pretty much just says look at the camera. So it's always going to be facing the camera straight on, which is really important. If we press play now and go to LAN host, you'll see we've got our health bar, it's above our heads, we're turning around, we're shooting, etc. But at the moment, when you're playing a multiplayer with this, you will not see the health change on each other's screen. So your one will change if you get hit, but if you hit them, their health bar won't go down, but it will on their screen. So we need to change some of the code in the health. So if I stop playing and double click on health to open up mono develop. And there are a few changes we need to put in here. First one, if you've been following a lot of the videos along, is adding one to here, calling it using Unity engine dot networking. Remember, these capitals are important, otherwise it won't work. Next one, as before, change from mono behavior to network behavior because it needs to be able to refer to the network. So what else have we got? Public constant integer max health 100. So when it first starts, it goes to 100. Next, we need to do a synchronized variable. And what this means is it's going to sync it to the server. And the hook, so this is the, what part it's going to change, is called on change health. Speech marks, normal bracket, and square bracket. And that holds it together. If it's in the square bracket, it sends it to the server. So we've got public integer current health equals max health. That stays the same. Public rect transform health bar stays exactly the same. Now the public void take damage integer amount. Now this does need to change slightly because we need to check if everything is sending to the server properly. So if not the server, so if this isn't the server, then we return. Because we only want this code to really work with the server. We don't want it to change on the client, on your individual computer. So that will change and it won't run the codes if not. Lastly, I'm going to go down at the bottom here, go void on change health. Now you'll notice that is the same as that. And we are doing the integer health. And putting this here. So we've added in this, it's a new variable that changes and it changes on the server and it's actually going to change the health bar. So if I just cut that and if I paste it in, there we go. Now, best thing to do with all these things is test it. So I'm going to save and I'm going to rebuild the game. So let's build it. Save it as multiplayer, replace it, that's fine. And once it's finished, there we go. Let's double click on it to run it here. And we also want to run it on here. Let's put the quality up a little bit so you can actually see what I'm typing this time. So, play. Let's play it on here as well. And this is the LAN host. So, a little bit bigger this time, it's still quite small this area. 192.168.30.237. LAN client. So let's move him around, turn to face this way and shoot. So the health's going down, and you'll actually see on this screen the health is going down here as well. If I control him or her and shoot, the health is going down. So nearly no health here. Shoot one more time and it's got no health left. What you'll end up seeing, you can't see it at the moment because it's just loading so many things to audio listeners, is it's sending a code debug.log saying dead. But because we got all these other errors, that's not so easy to do. But either way, the health is actually going down now on both screens. And from here, we can start looking at how to make the character actually respawn elsewhere. So that's the end of the video. Hopefully you followed along and you can get started.